Midnight. In the town of Puttaparthi, in India's Andhra Pradesh state, silence reigns. But this silence is deceptive, for here lies one of the world's greatest spiritual mysteries. The stories told about the man who once lived on these lands are so contradictory that it is nearly impossible to separate fact from fiction. Who was this man, a god or a charlatan? To his 30 million followers, he was an avatar, God incarnated in human form. To his critics, he was one of the greatest frauds humanity has ever seen. Sai Baba's story is not just the tale of a single man. It is an exploration of the fine line between the power of faith and the lure of deception, a journey into humanity's deepest needs and darkest fears. On this journey, we will tell you about two different Sai Babas. The first, born in 1838 and died in 1918, the mysterious fakir of Shirdi, the man said to have turned water into oil, raised the dead, and foretold the future. The second, born in 1926, Sathya Sai Baba, who declared himself the reincarnation of the first, produced gold and precious stones from nothing, and gathered millions of people around him as a modern-day guru. But this story also has its dark sides, allegations of sexual abuse, murders covered up, hidden truths. What is the reality? Do paranormal powers truly exist, or is it all one vast illusion? Tonight, we will scrutinize every piece of evidence, listen to witnesses, and examine the darkest allegations. Are you ready? Because this journey may shake your very beliefs. 1858. Under British colonial rule, in the small town of Shirdi in Maharashtra, an ordinary day unfolds, until a young stranger sets foot in the village. No one knows where he came from. About 16 years old, thin in build, with a white cloth on his head and poor garments on his body. When the local priest Mahalsapati first sees him, he greets him with the words, "Ya Sai." Welcome, Holy Father. From that moment, the young man's name would be remembered in history as Sai Baba. But Sai Baba was no ordinary dervish. Upon his arrival, he went straight to the large neem tree on the outskirts of the village and sat beneath it, motionless, for hours, for days. Villagers wondered, what is this boy doing? Why does he not speak? Why does he not engage with anyone? And at first, children mocked him, threw stones, and called him mad. Yet, Sai Baba never reacted. Whether in the burning heat or the cold, he remained in the same posture, deep in meditation. 5 years passed in this way. The villagers grew accustomed to his presence. Some began bringing him food, others only watched from a distance. Until, one day, the first miracle occurred. The first miracle, turning water into oil. By 1863, Sai Baba had taken residence in a ruined mosque. Every night he lit the lamps inside. For this, he needed oil, which he asked for daily from the village shopkeepers. At first, the shopkeepers considered giving oil a form of charity, but as the days passed, they grew resentful. This beggar comes every day asking for oil. This cannot go on, they thought. One evening, Sai Baba came as usual to request oil, but this time the shopkeepers lied. "We have no oil left. Our stock is gone." Sai Baba said nothing. He simply returned to the mosque with his empty vessel. The villagers watched from a distance, curious. Would the lamps remain unlit that night? But as soon as Sai Baba entered the mosque, something astonishing happened. He filled the vessel with water. He drank a sip, then poured the rest into the lamps and lit the wicks. That night, all the lamps burned until morning. The water burned as though it were the finest oil. Some villagers who witnessed this immediately told the shopkeepers. They could not believe it and rushed to the mosque to see with their own eyes. Indeed, the lamps burned brightly, and inside them was only water. Terrified, the shopkeepers fell at Sai Baba's feet, begging forgiveness. "Forgive us. We will never lie again." But Sai Baba calmly replied, "If you truly had no oil, you could have simply said so. But why did you feel the need to lie?" This event became Sai Baba's first great miracle in the village. From then on, the villagers understood he was no ordinary fakir. The second miracle, creating the sacred water of the Ganges. Das Ganu was one of Sai Baba's most devoted disciples. One day, wishing to follow Hindu tradition, he desired to bathe in the holy Godavari River, a ritual believed to cleanse sins. He asked Sai Baba for permission. "Baba, I would like to go to the Godavari and bathe in its sacred waters." Sai Baba smiled and gave a surprising answer. Why feel the need to go to the Godavari? The Godavari is here, at my feet. Dasganu was stunned. Though his faith in Sai Baba was strong, doubt arose in his heart. How could sacred water possibly flow from his feet, he thought. Sai Baba, perceiving his thoughts, said, "Come here, place your hands beneath my feet." Hesitantly, Dasganu approached and cupped his hands below Sai Baba's feet. Then something miraculous happened. From beneath Sai Baba's feet flowed pure, crystal-clear water. Dasganu could not believe his eyes. The water was as holy as that of the Godavari, perhaps even clearer. He poured it over his head, anointed his body, overwhelmed with awe. The gathered villagers also took the water, cherishing it as sacred and preserving it. This event showed that Sai Baba's power extended not only over the material world, but also over the spiritual. The third miracle, fighting the cholera epidemic. In 1868, a great calamity struck Shirdi, a cholera epidemic. At the time, this disease was often fatal. The villagers panicked, too afraid to even leave their homes. Every day, more lives were lost. As a last resort, they turned to Sai Baba. "Baba, this plague will destroy us. You must do something." Sai Baba said nothing. He went inside, brought out a small sack of flour, and asked for a hand mill. In full view of the villagers, he began to grind the wheat. The villagers were baffled. At a time like this, he grinds wheat? How could this possibly help? But when Sai Baba finished, he handed them the flour and said, "Take this and scatter it along the borders of the village." Though they did not understand, the villagers obeyed. Through the night, they spread the flour around the village's edges. And the next morning, a miracle occurred. Not a single new case of cholera appeared. A week passed, still no new patients. 2 weeks passed. The epidemic had completely vanished. After this event, the villagers began to look at Sai Baba differently. To them, he was no longer just a holy man, but someone with extraordinary powers, even able to battle deadly disease. The miracle of controlling fire. In the summer season, the heat in Shirdi was unbearable. After the harvest, villagers stored their grain in a large courtyard. Bundles of dry straw, sacks of wheat, piles of barley, all perfect fuel for fire. One afternoon, a farmer named Kandaji Sutar was resting at home when Sai Baba suddenly came to his door with urgency. "Go at once, your field is burning." Panicked, Kandaji ran to his land. He searched everywhere but found no fire. Confused, he returned to Sai Baba. "Baba, I saw no fire anywhere. Why did you frighten me?" Sai Baba calmly replied, "Go again and look more carefully." This time, Kandaji looked more closely. From a distance, he noticed a thin column of smoke rising. As he approached, he realized that the inside of one of the large straw stacks had begun to smolder. Flames had not yet broken out, but the fire was growing within. Just then, the wind picked up, and the fire began to spread rapidly. Kondaji cried out, "Fire! Help!" Villagers rushed to the scene, but the blaze spread so fast that the entire harvest seemed doomed to be consumed. At that moment, Sai Baba arrived, walking calmly. In his hand was a small pot of water. He took it and sprinkled only a few drops onto the burning heap of straw. Astonishingly, the entire fire was extinguished instantly. With just a few drops of water, a raging fire was brought under control. This event deeply impressed the villagers. From that day, many believed that Sai Baba even held power over the forces of nature. What lies behind the miracles? The miracles performed by Sai Baba during his 50 years in Shirdi were not limited to these few events. He was said to have revived the dead, healed the sick, and foretold the future, with dozens of witnesses to each occurrence. Yet, more important than the miracles themselves were Sai Baba's teachings. He made no distinction between Hindu and Muslim. He lived in a mosque, but also embraced Hindu rituals. He taught sabr, patience, and shukr, gratitude. To people he would say, "You are my child, I am your mother and father." In 1918, before his death, his final words were, "Do not fear, Paniplaya. Even after my passing I will remain here. My tomb will speak to you. 8 years from now, I will return." And indeed, 8 years later, in 1926, hundreds of kilometers away, a small child was born. On November 23, 1926, in the village of Puttaparthi, Peta Venkama Raju and Ayaswarama welcomed their 4th child into the world. They named him Satya Narayana Raju. Satya means truth, and Narayana is one of the names of the god Vishnu. From birth, unusual signs surrounded this child. At one point, when the blanket beneath the baby was lifted, a deadly cobra was found coiled beneath him. Under normal circumstances, the snake should have killed the child, yet the boy remained unharmed, and the cobra showed no aggression. As Satya grew, his behavior became even stranger. He absolutely refused to eat meat. Whenever beggars came to their home, he insisted that his mother feed them. At school, instead of joining the other children in games, he encouraged them to pray. The most astonishing incident, however, was this. Little Satya would take empty bags, put his hand inside, and then pull out sweets, toys, even personal belongings his friends had lost. At first, everyone thought it was nothing more than a child's trick. As Satya grew older, he developed not only physically but intellectually at an astonishing pace. He sang songs in Sanskrit, a language he had never been taught. He quoted from sacred texts that no one had ever taught him. His teachers were baffled. Where does this child learn such things? His family grew increasingly worried. In those days in India, children who displayed paranormal abilities were often thought to be under the influence of evil spirits. When Satya turned 13, a dramatic event changed his life forever. On May 17, 1940, while playing with his friends after school, he suddenly screamed in pain and leapt into the air. A scorpion had stung him on the big toe of his right foot. His friends rushed him home. The family panicked. Scorpion stings in that region were often fatal, but the greater shock came the next day. When Satya regained consciousness, he was completely different, as if he had become another person overnight. His manner of speaking changed. His behavior changed. Most astonishing of all, he began to sing songs in languages he had never learned. He recited complex poems in Sanskrit. He quoted Hindu philosophy in great depth. His family was terrified. What has happened to this boy? They first consulted the local doctor. After examining him, the doctor found no physical problem. Perhaps it is psychological trauma, he suggested. Then they took him to other doctors. Each gave different diagnoses: a nervous system disorder, an adolescent syndrome, temporary memory loss. But none of the treatments worked. On the contrary, Satya's unusual behaviors only intensified. The family began to search for another explanation. What if this child is truly under the influence of another being? Desperate, they finally turned to a traditional exorcist, a man renowned in the region for driving away evil spirits. The moment the exorcist saw Satya, he declared, "This child is possessed by a demon. He must undergo harsh treatment to drive it out." The treatment included pouring cold water on the child's head, forcing him to drink concoctions made from strange herbs, striking his head with a metal rod, rubbing burning substances into his eyes. A normal child would have screamed, cried, or begged for mercy. But Satya made no sound. He seemed to feel no pain. This unsettled both the exorcist and the family even more. After several days of such treatment, nothing had changed. Satya continued to behave in exactly the same mysterious way. As the tortures continued, Satya's father, Peta Venkama, reached his breaking point. Gripping a thick stick, he stood before his son and demanded, "Enough! I am tired of this madness. Tell me, who are you? What do you want? Are you a demon, a ghost, a trickster?" Everyone around fell silent. Satya's answer would determine his fate. At that moment, the young boy looked directly into his father's eyes. In a calm yet powerful voice, he declared, "I am Sai Baba." These words shocked everyone in the household. None of them had ever heard the name Sai Baba before. Satya continued, "I have come to bring remedies for your troubles, to keep your homes pure and clean." The family immediately began to investigate. They asked elders and priests in the area, "Who is Sai Baba?" And they learned. This was the name of the holy man from Shirdi who had died 8 years earlier. Before his death in 1918, he had said, "8 years from now, I will return." Satya's birth year, 1926. Shirdi Sai Baba's death year, 1918. The gap, exactly 8 years. Was this a coincidence or a true reincarnation? One of the village priests demanded proof. "If you are truly Sai Baba, then prove it." Satya smiled and said, "Bring me jasmine flowers." The people gathered jasmine blossoms and placed them in his hands. Satya threw them to the ground. and something extraordinary happened. The flowers did not scatter randomly. Instead, they arranged themselves to form the words Sai Baba. Those who witnessed it were astonished. From that moment, people began to look at Sathya differently. But an even more astonishing event occurred just days later. A group of devotees came from Shirdi to see Sathya. These were followers who had once been closest to the original Sai Baba. They had never seen Sathya before, nor did they know anything about him. Yet, the moment Sathya saw them, he greeted each one by name. "Ah, Narasimha Swami, how are you? How is your family? And you, Lakshmi Bai, are you taking better care of your husband now?" The visitors were stunned. Sathya not only knew their names, but also intimate details about their families, their homes, even their private lives. The most remarkable moment came when one of them brought a photograph of the old Sai Baba. Sathya looked at the picture and began identifying the people in it, one by one. "This is Tatya Kode Patil. That is Madhav Rao Deshpande." He named them all correctly, even though the photograph had been taken before Sathya was ever born. After these events, miracles began to occur around young Sathya. But these miracles were different from those of Shirdi Sai Baba. The first miracle noticed was the creation of Vibhuti. Vibhuti is a type of sacred ash revered in Hindu tradition. Whenever Sathya rotated his hand in the air, ash would pour from his palm. The second miracle was the materialization of small objects, rings, necklaces, watches. They came from nowhere, as though they had been drawn out of thin air. The third miracle was healing the sick. When villagers who were ill came to Sathya, he would give them Vibhuti, and many of them recovered. Faced with these events, the family was forced to make a great decision. Would they try to bring this boy back to a normal life? Or would they accept and support his divine identity? His mother, Eswarama, resisted at first. "He is my son. I want him to grow up like a normal child." But his father, Peta Venkama, thought differently. "If he is truly a reincarnation, then we must not stand in his way." In the end, the family decided to accept Sathya's sacred identity. And thus began the story of one of the most controversial spiritual leaders of modern history. By 1943, the 17-year-old Sathya Sai Baba had gathered a small circle of followers in Puttaparthi. But his real fame would begin after the 1950s, when his miracles became even more striking and witnessed by many. In 1954, an Australian journalist named Howard Murfitt visited Sai Baba. Murfitt would later become the author of the book Sai Baba, Man of Miracles. Having encountered many spiritual leaders before, he was nonetheless shocked by what Sai Baba did in front of him. Murfitt described the experience as follows. "Sai Baba asked me my year of birth. I replied, 1906. He said, 'Very well, I shall create for you an American coin from that year.' Then he raised his hands and began to make circular movements. 'It's coming, coming. Here it is,' he declared. When he closed his hand, a shining golden coin appeared in his palm. It was a 1906 $10 American gold piece with the Statue of Liberty engraved on it and my birth year inscribed clearly. I examined the coin in detail, wondering if it might be counterfeit. But no, it was a perfect original. Its weight, dimensions, engravings, everything was flawless. The most astonishing part was not where Sai Baba had obtained it, but how he could have created such a perfect replica. A coin from 1906 was exceedingly rare and valuable at the time. Even finding one would have been difficult. To recreate it exactly seemed impossible. This event deeply impressed Murfitt. As a journalist, he had encountered many tricksters and frauds in his career, but this time he could find no explanation. The miracle most often repeated by Sai Baba was the creation of Vibhuti. Vibhuti is a gray sacred ash revered in Hindu traditions, usually made from burned cow dung and applied to the forehead. But Sai Baba's Vibhuti was different. He would rotate his hand in the air, and from his palm, a steady stream of Vibhuti would appear. He distributed this ash to his followers, who used it for various ailments. Dr. John Hyslop, an American engineer and devoted follower of Sai Baba, conducted a scientific analysis of this Vibhuti. In his report, he wrote, "When the chemical analysis of the Vibhuti was performed, it was found to be completely different in composition from normal cow dung ash. It contained no organic matter at all, only calcium, potassium, and other mineral substances were present. The most intriguing part was that in a laboratory, it would be nearly impossible to reproduce this exact composition. Another astonishing event took place in 1962. A family visiting Sai Baba came to him to pray for their 12-year-old son, who had been born with a heart condition. Doctors had told them that the boy would not live long. Sai Baba approached the child and rotated his hand in the air. What appeared was a golden ring engraved with the boy's name. Even more remarkable, on the inside of the ring were the words, "God protects you, 1962. The craftsmanship of the ring was so perfect that it looked as if it had been made by master jewelers over many years. Yet, it had appeared in Sai Baba's hand within seconds. That boy is alive today, now 70 years old, and his heart condition was completely healed. In the 1970s, Sai Baba began giving golden watches to his followers. These were usually luxury brands like Omega and Rolex, yet they bore special engravings with the words Sathya Sai Baba. One such watch was given to Dr. Michael Goldstein, who at that time was not yet the international head of the Sai Baba organization. Curious, he had his watch examined in Switzerland. The report was astonishing. The watch is an authentic Swiss-made piece. However, the engraving Sathya Sai Baba is embedded at the factory level. It is not possible that this inscription was added later. This means the watch was specially manufactured at the factory for Sai Baba. But here is the strange part. Omega has confirmed that they never produced such a special order. But perhaps the most dramatic miracle occurred in 1953. A 60-year-old factory owner named Radhakrishna came to Sai Baba's ashram, suffering from severe stomach ulcers. His condition was dire. On the first day, he remained bedridden. By the second day, his health worsened. On the third day, he fell into a coma. By the fourth day, his breathing stopped and his heart ceased to beat. His wife and family members panicked. Radhakrishna's body began to grow cold, his color fading, showing every sign of death. The ashram authorities told the family, "Nothing more can be done. Take the body and go." But his wife, clinging to a last shred of hope, sent word to Sai Baba. Sai Baba's reply was startling, "Do not fear, I am here." On the morning of the fifth day, Radhakrishna's body had completely stiffened and even begun to decompose. Yet Sai Baba entered the room and locked the door behind him. No one knows exactly what happened inside. Only faint murmurs of Sai Baba speaking could be heard. Minutes later, the door opened, and to everyone's amazement, Radhakrishna walked out alive, smiling and speaking as if nothing had happened. Not only was he alive, but his stomach ulcer had completely vanished. When doctors examined him, they found no trace of illness. From that day onward, Radhakrishna lived another 25 years, continually retelling the story of his miraculous return. From the 1960s onward, Sai Baba began materializing even more expensive gifts: diamond rings, ruby necklaces, sapphire earrings. Examinations of these precious items revealed astonishing results. The stones were natural, not fake. The craftsmanship was of extremely high quality. Yet no jeweler claimed to have made these pieces. Their market value was very high, but Sai Baba distributed them free of charge. Another of Sai Baba's famous miracles was the multiplication of food. Especially during festivals when thousands of people would come to the ashram, the food supply should have been insufficient. But whenever Sai Baba intervened, the food seemed endless, enough for everyone. One notable incident occurred in 1975. A festival drew 10,000 people, but only 2,000 portions of food had been prepared. The cooks were in a panic. Sai Baba walked into the kitchen, stirred the huge pots, and said, "There will be enough for all." And indeed, there was enough food for everyone. In fact, more than enough. To this day, no one has explained how it was possible. Dozens, sometimes hundreds of people witnessed these miracles. And these witnesses were not ordinary people. They included former Prime Minister of India, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, renowned scientists, journalists, foreign ambassadors, doctors, and engineers. All of them said the same thing: "I saw these events with my own eyes, and I cannot explain them." Yet, among these praises, skeptical voices also began to rise. In 1968, a young man declared war against India's most famous spiritual guru. His name was Basava Premanand. His profession, rationalist and guru hunter. Premanand's goal was simple, to cleanse India of fake gurus and charlatans, and his biggest target was Sathya Sai Baba. Born in 1930 in the state of Mysore, Basava Premanand had, in his youth, visited many gurus in his own spiritual quest, but what he witnessed left him deeply disappointed. Most of these so-called gurus were exploiting the pure faith of people, Premanand said. They tricked them with false miracles and took their money. When he first encountered Sai Baba in the 1960s, Premanand immediately classified him as just another fraud. Determined to prove it, he began a thorough investigation. In 1968, Premanand visited the Puttaparthi ashram, not as a tourist, but as a researcher. His aim was to observe Sai Baba's miracles closely and uncover the deception behind them. His first observation concerned the production of vibhuti. As Sai Baba rotated his hand in the air, Premanand watched carefully. What he noticed was striking. Sai Baba's robe sleeves were extremely wide, and every time before he produced vibhuti, he repeated the exact same hand movements. It looked more like a staged performance than a supernatural act. After returning home, Premanand deepened his research and eventually became convinced he had solved the vibhuti trick. In 1976, during a public demonstration, Premanand replicated Sai Baba's miracles in front of an audience. The method is this. Pre-prepared vibhuti ash is concealed in a small capsule between the thumb and forefinger. As the hand rotates, the capsule breaks open, releasing the ash into the palm. The ash is then distributed. Premanand performed this method and indeed produced an effect almost identical to Sai Baba's. According to Premanand, the tricks behind the creation of rings and watches were more complex, but still explainable. These objects were prepared in advance and stored in specially designed hidden pockets. Sai Baba's robe was custom-made, containing numerous secret compartments. With skillful sleight of hand, these objects could be produced as though they had been miraculously materialized. To support his claim, Premanand attempted to examine Sai Baba's old robes, and in some of them, he indeed found unusual pocket structures. One of Sai Baba's most famous miracles was the production of the golden lingam. In Hindu tradition, the lingam is an egg-shaped sacred object symbolizing the god Shiva. During the Shivratri festival, Sai Baba would produce a golden lingam from his mouth in front of thousands of people. For the crowd, this was undeniable proof of divinity. But Premanand explained it differently. This is an old magician's trick known as the swallow and regurgitate technique. The object is placed in the mouth beforehand and then expelled in a controlled manner. Many magicians use this method. Supporting this claim was an observation. Sai Baba often drank water before producing the lingam. According to Premanand, this was simply an excuse to place the object in his mouth. By the 1990s, with the advancement of video technology, Premanand analyzed Sai Baba's miracles, frame by frame, and claimed to have found proof of trickery. He paid particular attention to the hand movements during the creation of vibhuti. In slow motion, he observed suspicious details. While rotating his hand, the movement of his fingers could be seen in fractions of a second. This indicated manipulation of a hidden object. Some of Sai Baba's supposed eyewitnesses from the 1970s also began to change their accounts when interviewed by Premanand in the 1990s. Actually, we didn't really know what we saw. It was very crowded, we were far away, and we couldn't see clearly. But everyone was saying it was a miracle, so we thought so too. Premanand also collaborated with scientists to conduct laboratory tests on Sai Baba's so-called creations. The analysis of the vibhuti revealed the ash was chemically identical to cow dung ash. It contained no paranormal elements. Similar ash could be purchased in bulk from religious supply centers. As for the precious stones, the stones were real and of good quality. But similar stones could be found in India's major jewelry markets. They were not unique, custom-made items, just standard products. Premanand's work gained support not only in India, but also internationally. The British magician and skeptic James Randi endorsed Premanand's findings. There is nothing Sai Baba did that an experienced magician could not also do. They are all known methods of trickery. American psychologist Dr. Richard Wiseman expressed a similar view. No event ever claimed to be paranormal has held up under scientific scrutiny. Sai Baba is no exception to that rule. From the 1980s onward, Premanand began organizing public demonstrations across various cities in India. In these shows, he reproduced every one of Sai Baba's so-called miracles. The creation of vibhuti-producing rings, regurgitating the lingam, multiplying food through stage trickery. Audiences were astonished because what Premanand performed looked almost identical to what Sai Baba had done. After each performance, Premanand would say, "I am only a magician. I have no paranormal powers. But as you can see, I can create the same effects." This proves that such miracles are nothing more than tricks. Sai Baba's response to these criticisms was quite interesting. He stated, "Miracles are not performed as a display of power. They occur spontaneously and serve as evidence of divine will." And he added, "I did not come to earth to perform miracles. My true mission is to spiritually uplift humanity." To critics, however, this answer was evasive. Their question remained, if the miracles are real, why not subject them to scientific scrutiny? The reactions among Sai Baba's devotees to Premanand's criticisms varied widely. Some rejected them outright. "Premanand is jealous, that's why he attacks." Some fell into doubt. Could there really be trickery involved? A small minority abandoned Sai Baba altogether, but the majority gave a surprising response. Even if the miracles are fake, Sai Baba's spiritual value does not change. Thus, after 4 decades of relentless investigation, Premanand's work left behind one haunting question. If the miracles are truly fake, why do millions of people continue to believe? The answer, perhaps, lies not only in Sai Baba, but in the deeper workings of human psychology. In 2004, the BBC released the documentary The Secret Swami, which created a storm in the world of Sai Baba. Unlike earlier criticisms that focused mainly on so-called miracles, this film also brought forward far darker allegations, claims of misconduct. In the United States, during the 1990s, one of the most devoted Sai Baba communities was built in Arkansas. Al and Marissa Ram, together with their son Elijah, embodied what seemed to be the perfect Sai Baba family. Al had been a follower since his youth, while Marissa adopted his devotion after their marriage. The family lived by the motto, "Love all, serve all." In 1979, they traveled to India and met Sai Baba for the first time. This meeting, they later recalled, changed their lives completely, as Sai Baba treated them as special devotees. For years, they continued visiting India. In the 1990s, when their son was old enough, they began taking him along. For Elijah, the journeys initially felt extraordinary. He received personal attention, small gifts, and private moments with Sai Baba. The family interpreted this as a sign of divine favor. But in 1997, when Elijah was 16, events in those private meetings left him deeply unsettled. What he first thought might be part of a spiritual process soon caused inner conflict. He returned home confused and troubled, unsure of how to interpret what had happened. When he tried to raise the subject with his father, Al's reaction surprised him. Al explained that he too had once experienced something similar as a young man and had assumed it was a form of spiritual blessing. This left Elijah even more conflicted, torn between trust in his spiritual leader and a growing sense that something was profoundly wrong. On later visits, the situation for Elijah grew increasingly troubling. What had been introduced as a spiritual healing began crossing boundaries, leaving him more confused and distressed each time. What was framed as guidance and protection started to feel like manipulation, accompanied by warnings that if he resisted, his spiritual growth would be hindered, or that silence was required to prevent harm to his family. By 1999, the strain on Elijah had become visible. Once cheerful and outgoing, he had grown withdrawn, his school performance slipping, his demeanor clouded by a heavy silence. His parents, at first unaware of the reasons, only discovered the truth when Elijah finally opened up about his experiences. For Marissa, the revelation was devastating. "When my son told us everything, my world collapsed. For years I had worshipped this man as divine, only to realize he had harmed my child. The guilt was overwhelming, because I was the one who had placed my son in his care." Al Ram was equally shaken. "The same thing had happened to me as a young man, but I had convinced myself it was normal. Now I understood it had been a pattern of exploitation. Both my son and I had been misled. Elijah's story was not an isolated case. The BBC investigation uncovered accounts from others who described similar patterns of conduct. Swedish devotee Connie Larsson spoke publicly of experiences in the 1970s that he had long kept secret out of shame. Only years later, upon learning of others, did he feel compelled to speak. Another, Mark Roche from the United States, echoed the same theme. He used the explanation of spiritual healing with me as well. For years, I believed it was something sacred, until I realized it was nothing of the sort. Even the allegations of abuse were not the darkest chapter. A far greater scandal erupted: the mysterious killings inside the ashram in 1993. On the night of June 6, 1993, 4 young men, known to be close followers of Sai Baba, attempted to enter his private quarters. Their true motives remain unclear. Some claim they went to warn him, while others insist they planned to abduct him. Here is how the events unfolded. Around 2 a.m., the 4 young men entered the building where Sai Baba was staying. Security guards tried to stop them, and a violent struggle broke out. In the clash, 2 guards were killed, and 2 more were left seriously wounded. The 4 young men managed to reach Sai Baba's room, but he escaped through a rear exit. The intruders barricaded themselves inside the quarters. Police were called in, surrounding the building with heavy weapons. According to the official police report, the events unfolded as follows. 4 terrorists attacked the ashram with the intent to kidnap or kill Sai Baba. When the security guards resisted, the attackers killed them. When the police intervened, the assailants attacked the officers. The police opened fire in self-defense. All 4 terrorists were killed. But this version raises many questions. Why would these young men be labeled as terrorists? They were all known followers of Sai Baba. They only carried knives, while the police arrived with heavy firearms. Was this really an equal confrontation? Why was not a single intruder captured alive? Why was Sai Baba himself never questioned? When former Home Minister V.S. Rao took office in 2002 and reopened the case, he uncovered disturbing details. In his report, he noted, "The official account is riddled with inconsistencies. First, autopsy reports revealed that all 4 young men were shot in the back. That indicates an execution, not self-defense. Second, the ballistics analysis confirmed that the youths never fired a weapon. They only had knives, and even those knives were never used. Third, crime scene evidence showed the men had barricaded themselves inside the room and were prepared to surrender. They were hiding behind a barricade, not attacking. Perhaps the most suspicious fact, the only living witness to the events, Sai Baba himself, never gave an official statement. He was never questioned by the police, prosecutors, or the courts. When tracing the course of the investigation into these killings, a suspicious pattern emerges. The police officers responsible were arrested, but repeatedly released due to lack of evidence. Case files mysteriously disappeared and later resurfaced. Witnesses changed their testimonies or vanished altogether. The media eventually stopped pursuing the story. Government officials attempted to close the matter under the pretext of national security. V.S. Rao summarized the situation as follows. The true intentions of these young men were never investigated, because if they had been, much larger scandals would have been exposed. These killings were most likely carried out to conceal greater secrets. The 1993 murders also reverberated internationally. Human rights organizations began to take notice. The U.S. Embassy in Delhi published an advisory on its website for American citizens traveling to Andhra Pradesh. In this region, there is a well-known spiritual leader accused of inappropriate conduct with young male followers. Though the advisory did not mention his name, everyone understood it referred to Sai Baba. The Swedish government went further, shutting down a Sai Baba school in Sweden due to allegations of abuse. France also took action, placing the Sai Baba organization on its list of groups engaged in suspicious activities. In the face of these grave allegations, the response from Sai Baba's organization was widely seen as inadequate. Dr. Michael Goldstein, the international chairman of the organization, described how he handled a complaint brought to him by Al Ram concerning his son. Al told me that his son had been abused. It was a very serious allegation. I immediately traveled to India and asked Sai Baba directly, "Is this true?" Sai Baba replied, "I am pure, these are lies." For me, that was enough. This stance drew heavy criticism because Goldstein had not listened to the victim directly, conducted no independent investigation, relied solely on the word of the accused, made no effort to determine if there were other victims. As one former devotee critically put it, if a child says he has been abused, you must at least investigate seriously. Simply asking the accused is not enough. That is re-traumatizing the victim. One of the most striking moments came during a BBC interview with Isaac Tigret, the founder of Hard Rock Cafe, and a man who had donated millions of dollars to Sai Baba. BBC: "What do you think about these allegations of abuse?" Tigret: "I absolutely believe there is truth in these rumors." BBC: "If that's true, doesn't it change your faith?" Tigret: "No, it doesn't. My relationship with Sai Baba is unaffected by these things." BBC: "How is that possible?" Tigret: "Even if he were to kill someone tomorrow, it would not stop my spiritual evolution, because I live by the values I received from him. His personal actions do not concern me." These words caused an uproar because they revealed something important. Some followers choose to continue believing, even while acknowledging disturbing truths. Amidst all these contradictions and dark allegations, it is also valuable to consider a Turkish perspective. In 1983, the well-known investigative journalist Haluk Egemen Sarıkaya visited Sai Baba and recorded his experiences in an objective manner. Sarıkaya was one of Turkey's leading paranormal researchers in the 1980s. He investigated UFO phenomena, telepathic experiments, mediums, and spiritual events. His approach was entirely scientific, neither blind denial nor blind acceptance. His research methodology was built on several principles: conducting direct on-site observation, speaking with as many witnesses as possible, collecting both supportive and contradictory evidence, remaining objective and avoiding prejudice. In 1983, after reading about Sai Baba, Sarıkaya became curious. Was this man truly in possession of paranormal powers or not? Before his journey, Sarıkaya carried out extensive research. He read every Turkish and English book written about Sai Baba. He watched video recordings. He corresponded with Sai Baba devotees from different countries around the world. One of his most detailed exchanges was with Peggy Mason, an experienced devotee in England. Mason gave him practical advice about traveling to India. If you are going to stay at the ashram, prepare for very simple living conditions, sleeping on the floor, very plain food, waking up early. But it is worth enduring these things if you want to see Sai Baba. Most importantly, Sarıkaya wrote directly to Sai Baba in both Turkish and English. He introduced himself as an investigative journalist and requested permission to visit. A few weeks later, an unexpected reply arrived. It was an official letter of invitation from Indulal Shah, the global chairman of Sai Baba's organization. "Dear Mr. Sarıkaya, Sri Sathya Sai Baba has accepted your visit. Special accommodations will be arranged for you in the ashram, and you will have the opportunity to meet Swami directly." This was a remarkable privilege, since at the time, Sai Baba granted very little access to foreign journalists. On August 7, 1983, Sarıkaya arrived in Bombay. His first stop was Dharmakshetra, Sai Baba's central headquarters in the city. His first impressions were striking. An enormous complex, perfectly organized, everywhere young men in white clothing, extremely polite and helpful. They were very excited to see me because apparently I was the first Turk ever to come here. On the very first day, he was given the sacred ash, vibhuti, to try. Sarıkaya described the experience. It had a metallic, slightly bitter taste, not unpleasant but unusual. It was a very interesting, impressive experience. That evening, there was a bhajan, devotional music, ceremony. Sarıkaya described the atmosphere. Thousands of people together, a deeply peaceful environment. The people truly looked sincere in their belief. They didn't appear to be pretending. The next day, Sarıkaya traveled to Puttaparthi via Bangalore. The 180-kilometer journey took 6 hours by an old bus. His observations along the way were vivid. This was the real face of rural India, very poor villages, dusty roads. But as we approached the village, bhajan music began to play on the bus, On people's faces, I saw excitement and hope. It was as if they were traveling to a sacred place. Upon arriving in Puttaparthi, Sarakaya was struck with shock. In the middle of this small, poor village suddenly appeared enormous modern buildings. A hospital, a university, a concert hall, accommodation for thousands of people. It was as if I had stepped into another world. He also received a surprising level of hospitality. While ordinary visitors slept on mats in dormitory-style barracks, Sarakaya was treated differently. A senior administrator named Kutumbo Rao came and told me I would be given a private room. He also took away my paid meal coupons and replaced them with free special ones. "These are Swami's personal instructions," he said. That evening, he attended the darshan ceremony for the first time. Darshan was the sacred event held twice daily, during which Sai Baba walked among the devotees to bless them. One detail immediately caught Sarakaya's attention. Normally, Sai Baba always began darshan from the women's side, and for the next 17 days he did so. But on the very first evening, for the first time in his life, he began from the men's side and walked directly toward where we were seated. Was it coincidence or intentional? Sarakaya could not be sure, but it left an impression. On another day of darshan, Sarakaya was seated in the front row. As Sai Baba approached, Sarakaya spontaneously reached out and touched his foot. At that moment, something very strange happened. It felt as though I had been struck by a strong electric current, but without pain. A vibration, a wave of energy coursed through my entire body. It was completely unexpected. This experience deeply affected Sarakaya, precisely because he was unprepared for it and believed it could not have been the result of suggestion. At one point, Sarakaya caught a cold. His fever rose, and he felt unwell. When Kutumbo Rao summoned him for a private audience, he was still sick. Rao told him something astonishing. "Don't worry, after you meet Swami, your fever will vanish, your illness will be gone." Sarakaya found this strange. How could an illness be predicted with such certainty? The day of the audience arrived. Though still ill, he went. Inside the interview room, he was not alone. There was a group of Thai Buddhists, along with a Hindu mother and daughter. Sarakaya thought this diversity was significant. When Sai Baba entered the room, the first thing that struck Sarakaya was this. He knew details about us that he could not possibly have known. He already knew we were from Turkey, but he also knew I was a journalist, why I had come, and even certain things about my family. All without asking. During the audience, Sai Baba began rotating his hand in the air. Sarakaya observed the moment with great care. There was truly nothing in his hand. His palms were completely empty. Then he began making circular movements. They weren't fast, I could clearly see. Finally, sacred ash vibhuti appeared in his palm. He also gave a silver brooch to one of the Thai women present. Sarakaya recalled, "The brooch was finely crafted, valuable in appearance, but I could not understand how it appeared. It hadn't happened too quickly, yet perhaps I still missed something." When the meeting ended, Sarakaya felt unexpectedly well. Strangely, as I left the room, my fever was gone. My runny nose had stopped, and I felt much stronger. Recovering so quickly would normally have been impossible. This made him think. Could it have been coincidence? Or was there truly a paranormal effect at play? Sarakaya stayed in Puttaparthi for a total of 17 days, conducting systematic observations. Organizational perfection. Everything was perfectly organized. Thousands of people were there, yet no chaos at all. Everyone knew exactly what to do. Sincerity of the followers. The people truly seemed devoted. I did not see anyone pretending. Many of them were educated, intelligent individuals. International diversity. There were people from all over the world. American doctors, German engineers, Japanese businessmen. A very diverse profile. Sai Baba's charisma. The man was truly impressive. When he entered a room, the atmosphere changed. He had a powerful influence over people. But Sarakaya also noted some suspicious moments. At times, Sai Baba's hand movements were very quick. It was difficult to see exactly what he was doing. Also, his robe sleeves were extremely wide and loose. Something could have been hidden inside. Whenever he created vibhuti, he always used the same motions. It resembled a well-practiced performance. Some of the surprise gifts seemed as if they had been prepared beforehand. They did not always appear entirely spontaneous. Upon returning to Turkey, Sarakaya summarized his experience in a balanced way. He is certainly an extraordinary man. His positive effect on people cannot be denied. But regarding the miracles, I cannot be 100% certain. Everything happened very quickly, and not in a fully controlled environment. He added an important reflection. But I must also say this. Even if the miracles were staged, the positive impact this man has on people is real. He has changed the lives of thousands, given them hope. That cannot be dismissed. And his final conclusion was deeply meaningful. I do not know what the truth is, but this experience showed me that there are still many things in this world we cannot explain. One must be cautious about speaking in absolutes. Faced with all this evidence, testimony, allegations, and research, we arrive at the great question, what is the truth? The available data can be summarized as follows. Evidence in favor of Sai Baba, 30 million followers worldwide, thousands of miracle claims and witnesses, large-scale educational and healthcare projects, positive statements from highly respected figures, impressive experiences reported by objective observers. Evidence against Sai Baba, serious allegations of sexual abuse with witnesses, scientific explanations exposing miracle trickery, a murder case allegedly covered up systematic media manipulation, hostile responses to criticism. How can this contradiction be explained? To understand it, we must look deep into human psychology. Dr. Susan Blackmore, professor of psychology at the University of Bristol and a researcher of numerous paranormal phenomena, explains the Sai Baba phenomenon as follows. The human need to believe in miracles is profound and powerful. This is not limited to the uneducated. Highly intelligent, well-educated people also share the same psychological needs. If someone gives them hope, meaning, and a sense of belonging, they tend to overlook contradictory evidence. This psychological mechanism is known as confirmation bias. People highlight information that supports their beliefs and ignore information that contradicts them. Isaac Tigret's startling words, "Even if Sai Baba were a murderer, my faith would not change," are a perfect example of what psychology calls cognitive dissonance. According to the theory developed by Leon Festinger, the human mind cannot comfortably hold two contradictory beliefs at the same time. When this happens, either the belief or the reality must be abandoned. But most often, people choose to preserve their beliefs by ignoring, reinterpreting, or downplaying reality. In Tigret's case, on one side there is the belief, Sai Baba is my spiritual leader. On the other side, the possibility, Sai Baba may have committed crimes. When these two collide, the mind chooses to protect the stronger one, the belief built over years of devotion. The result is rationalization. His personal flaws cannot overshadow the divine teachings I have received, and that is why even the gravest allegations never severed the loyalty of millions of devotees. Because faith, more often than not, takes precedence over truth. Sai Baba's story confronts us again with humanity's oldest questions. Does faith create reality, or does reality feed faith? For millions who deified him, Sai Baba was a bringer of miracles who transformed their lives. For those who dismissed him as a false prophet, he was a master of illusion. For those caught in between, he remains both light and shadow, both hope and disappointment. Perhaps the real secret lies not in who Sai Baba was, but in why humanity felt such a deep need for him. For when we are desperate, we cling to miracles, and in the midst of the unknown, we search for meaning. Sathya Sai Baba died in 2011, yet the debate surrounding him still lives on. For some, he is an immortal avatar. For others, one of history's greatest deceptions. In the end, the decision is yours. Was Sai Baba truly a divine savior with supernatural powers, or a master illusionist feeding on humanity's hunger for faith? Whatever the answer, one fact remains. The Sai Baba phenomenon served as a mirror, reflecting our deepest desires and our deepest fears. And perhaps that is why he will continue to be remembered as one of the most complex and controversial paranormal figures in history.